And we're back with the second part of my Sakuyamon custom video. In this video, or this part, I'm making the accessories, excluding the staff, the stand, and then I'm painting everything and the final show off. So, let's get going. I start off with a stand, but just know it's better to get an actual stand rather than finagling one like I did, since mine isn't too stable and I'd rather not have my hard work break because of an unstable stand. But I'm showing you anyway. I have this round piece of rubbery resin that was left over from one of my brother's projects I'm going to be using as the base. Since it's round, I decided to make a yin-yang symbol on it, which I carved with my craft knife. I also glued a metal plate to the bottom to weigh it down, and made an attachment piece for the stand arm out of epoxy and drilled into the center to add that. This is important as the material is rubbery and flexible and will make the stand arm lean to the sides and maybe pop out or collapse. For the stand arm, I found some clear plastic pieces which can be screwed onto each other with a bolt and nut, and I used epoxy and super glue to attach the clear pieces to some wooden skewers to make the stand arm. After ensuring the posing range, I covered the skewers with epoxy to make them stronger so that they don't break or collapse. So my stand arm has 4 pieces and 3 joints now. I make sure that one end can plug into the base and the other into the back of the figure. Next up is her attack accessory. I'm going to make the attack called Spirit Strike and model it after the appearance it has on another toy, as there's no good reference I found. And it was one of her main attacks in the Digimon Rumble arena we played when we were younger. The Spirit Strike attack uses the 4 Kura Kitsune, which are housed in the 4 tubes on her belt when not used. I start off with a wire base, looping the wire around my stand arm so it can attach to her when posing. Then I make 4 long arms with the wires and twist them together to make a posable armature. So it's a spider with 4 legs. Next, I add layers of hot glue onto the wire arms to build up the shape, waiting for the glue to cool between the layers. I originally wanted to use colored hot glue, but I couldn't find all the colors I wanted. The attack has the appearance of foxes, so I'm using the hot glue and gravity to make the front paws and the shape of the heads and ears. If my hot glue was not high temperature hot glue, I probably would have tried to pinch them a bit into shape with my fingers, but that would probably still burn me. Unfortunately, because I'm sculpting with hot glue, I could not add the element symbols to the heads. Got nothing to do with forgetting. When painting the Spirit Strike, I used some cheap transparent acrylic paint to paint it, as along with the transparent hot glue, it makes a suitable effect. They are each painted according to the elements they represent. Blue for water, red for fire, green for wind, and yellow for thunder, I think. And my hot glue that I used is flexible, so it results in a somewhat posable piece with the wire armature. At the end of last year, I had a model kit I was interested in and looked up how to put them together. I had noticed that people mostly used enamel paints for the kids, so that's what I decided to use for Sakuyamon. Unfortunately, I didn't know the enamel was not flexible, so the flexible pieces are flexible no more. I got some white enamel from Humble a few years ago, and I newly bought some purple and gold enamel from Tamiya, and some black enamel colorant, because I'm cheap. But I'd rather just get some black enamel next time, as getting the ratios right was nearly impossible, and it made it difficult to get a smooth finish. So I had to use a sponge to apply all the black, because even thinning it didn't help. I originally wanted to do the main white parts with my aerosol paint, but didn't have enough left for all the parts. But I masked off the other areas and sprayed the paint anyway. Though honestly, it might have been better to use a primer for most of the parts before painting. But unfortunately I didn't have access to one, and I still wanted to keep the skin color of the face. I started the hand painting with purple, which I originally used from the bottle, but the color turned out too dark, so I mixed it with the white and thinned it to get the color and consistency I wanted. The things painted purple were mainly the boots, shoes, gloves on the arms and all the hands. I only had to use a single coat of paint. It's so satisfying to see the color change so completely and easily. For the hand painted parts, I mostly stuck them on wooden skewers to be able to handle them more easily. Next up, the gold. I was originally wondering if I had to use a more yellow toned gold like some of my references, but decided for a true gold color in the end. I used multiple coats of the gold in some places and only one in others somehow. I had used the paint directly from the bottle, but geez, it's quite tedious mixing it properly before painting every time, as the pigment sticks to the bottom of the bottle quite a bit. Parts that are gold are the staff, wings, shoulder armor, breastplate, knee pads, and many smaller decorations all over the figure, and so on. Next up was the black, with which I struggled with. I originally used a paintbrush to apply it, but when the result left visible brush strokes, I decided to use a sponge to apply it. And I pretty much fill in all the places that haven't been painted yet. I did try to paint the joint their respective colors, but yeah, it's already chipping off. The best I can do with the black is to add the paint, and just before it dries I use my thinners to smear it, which somehow stained the joints. I definitely wasn't as successful with the other colors though. I switched between black and gold a few times to get all the small details just right, similarly to with the white as well. For the white, it was mainly the hair and some small details like the yin-yang symbols and some markings on her breastplate and helmet, while the rest was able to be spray painted. I painted the hair with the enamel, which I had to thin down quite a bit, even though the paint still ended up a bit chunky in the small corners. After painting the hair, I got out some pastels, as in my references her hair is more grey and faded out to white at the tips. So I colour the hair with the pastels and do some shading and fade it to white at the tips. Then I used a sponge to apply a matte varnish to the hair. I only have an acrylic matte varnish, but that worked out well with the humble enamel. Well, the matte varnish didn't want to play with the Tamiya enamel at all. The things painted with the Tamiya enamel was sealed with a satin finish Mod Podge. And there was also some places finished up with a gloss finish. So now that all the paint and sealing work's done, I put her together. It's quite satisfying seeing my 50 plus hours of work coming together into a whole figure. And she took quite a long time, especially the sanding, but it's pretty cool seeing everything finished now. Although she's not very photogenic, she looks quite good in real life. And if you're wondering about how I'm attaching the wings permanently, I popped the wings onto the toothpicks on her back, and then I used some golden rhinestones and glued them onto the toothpicks, avoiding the wings and thus locking the wings in place and keeping them poseable. Some things that I definitely want to improve though is the way I did the hair. Simple enough as it seems, but because of my very liquid varnish, some small parts ended up looking a bit iffy. And yeah, my biggest problem is with the hair. Next time I'm going to research a bit more about how to make the hair look better and then make it, because yeah, it's part of the reason she looks so top heavy. So her accessories is her extra hands, her staff, her stand and base, and then her spirit strike attack piece. And now let's get ready for some pretty pictures and the showcase. Thanks for watching. Bye.